Welcome to Graceful Profiles. I'm your host, Alicia Figueras-Lambert. I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest. Graceful Profiles is all about the journey, where you were, where you are, where you want to go. We're just sharing your journey, which I think is a beautiful thing. As we get older, we gracefully age. We have graceful profiles we want to share, and this is the platform. So I really want you to like us. I want you to share us. I want you to subscribe to us. And with this particular guest, my goal is to get 100 views. So you have homework to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want to introduce you to my favorite person in Orlando. His name is Dennis Last. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
It's so exciting to have you here. I'm really happy that you spent the time with us.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I'd like to share some of my stuff from 1949.
Whoa. So
Yeah,
let's start there. 1949 is it. Let's go.
okay. March 14th, 1949, I was born in a little place called Oil City, Pennsylvania. It was named Oil City because Colonel Drake back in the 1800s had the first oil well in Titusville. It went down a little creek, which they called Oil Creek, and where Oil Creek met with the Allegheny to go south to Pittsburgh to refine the oil. That's where Oil City was made. So
Nice.
that's where I was born, and I stayed there for a good 16 years, and then got invited to go to Maryland by one of my uncles who lived down there. Says, you need to go somewhere where you can make a little bit of money.
Mm.
I moved down to Maryland, graduated from in 1967 from Bladensburg Senior High School.
Wow. I know Bladensburg very well.
Bladensburg, yes. So I went there, and then in November, the war was on, and of course, being patriotic, I joined the service in October 15th, 1967.
Wow.
I was assigned to several little places. My first uh, assignment was Amarillo, Texas. Then I went to Lackland, Texas. Then I went to New Mexico. And then I went overseas, and I was in Karat Air Force Base in Thailand, which was a support base in Vietnam. So I got
Mm.
a medal there. And then afterwards, they said, hey, why don't we make you happy, and we're going to send you to Pease Air Force Base, New Hampshire. I had 3 beautiful, hot, wet climates for 3 years. And then I went to New Hampshire, where they had one of the coldest winters going. The chill
Mm-mm.
factor was 65 below zero.
What?
I,
No way.
yes, I was freezing. I met a lovely woman
65.
who was going to college at University of New Hampshire, and we got married back in
Um,
70, early 71. We got married. And at that point, I also was invited to go to the Metropolitan Police Department, Washington, D.C. So October 15th, 1971, I left the Air Force, moved back. My base was in Maryland, so I moved back there and joined the Metropolitan Police Department. At that point, one of my uncles, who was on the department for 18 years, said, hey, do you want to go to the academy and go out, or would you like to make money? Well, money sort of made me feel good. So I went undercover. I went
mm.
for 6 months at the Morals Division, which was gambling, liquor, prostitution, and about 3 or 4 other, as they call, victimless crimes.
Mm.
I made several lockups in the first 6 months. And then I said, I got to go to the academy. I go to the academy and start my classes. Well, the small problem I had that I didn't know about ahead of time was all the cases that I had made locking these people up are going to court. So I kept getting pulled out of class, trying to learn about DC code and all this other stuff to go down and testify in court. Well, I wasn't a top person in the academy class, but I was among the top third. So I still stayed with it. The funny part about that, and I have the picture here to show it, was the one time I got called to court was the one time everybody in my academy class went to get their uniforms. They then took the picture of the class, and if you look on the class, you'll see everybody in uniform, but this one guy on the right-hand side who's wearing a sports coat and tie. That was me.
But of course.
Of course. So I didn't have a uniform at that time. I was on the police department, and they sent me to a place called Anacostia. There are 7 districts in DC police. Of all the districts, 2 of them, the 6th district and the 7th district, are in Anacostia. And the reason it was so bad was the fact that 80% of the people who are committing the crimes or on probation or had the guns lived in Anacostia. So that's where I was, and it was a very, very active, good, let's say 8 years I was there.
How far is Anacostia from the capital?
It's almost on the Maryland line. The capital's in the middle. And
Okay.
about northeast, west, and stuff like that. South is where it went to the Maryland line by the bridge that goes over to Virginia. And also, if I went 3 or 4 more blocks, it was called Southern Avenue. And all of a sudden, you were in Maryland. So when I first went to Anacostia, it was funny. I had, back then, nobody called you by your name for the first 5 years. I was always rookie. So my sergeant or my officer that was senior officer who was there gave me the keys to the car and says, "We got this section over here, drive the section, let's see what we got." And he just lay back and sit and watch. And then every once in a while he'd tap me on my shoulder and say, "We're in Maryland. Get back in the district." That's how I learned where the district was, from
Okay.
telling me, because there were no signs. You're talking 71, 72,
Wow.
a whole bunch of stuff out there. So I went and did that for several years. And then they had an opening on the vice section, which was basically what I'd worked when I was undercover, doing all the narcotics and gambling and prostitution and liquor and stuff like that. So I went out of uniform again, and I became a detective there and worked that section for another, 3 or 4 years. Then the big headquarters downtown by the Capitol, sat there and says, "Look, we got a new gambling squad opening up." And they had stopped the gambling squad earlier because of the corruption factor. A lot of people working gambling would be offered a lot of money if they turned their heads. So they got rid of that. They revamped everything and said, "We're going to start a new gambling section," that had about 30 people in it. I applied for it and I got it. So I went to the gambling section, and we also were loaned out for narcotics, for liquor, for prostitution, stuff like that, where I'd walk up and down the street pretending I was a John. And some female would come, hopefully it was a female, some of them weren't, and would come up and say, "Hey, are you dating?" And they give me the probable cause. I couldn't say anything. It would be entrapment at that time.
Right.
I ended
I
up,
would love to be a fly on the wall to witness that.
that was a lot of fun. I had one that her name was Lizette Julianne way back when. And
You remember her name?
yes, I do, because she scratched my face.
Oh,
Yeah, that was before I really learned, these aren't just women. These are, criminals. And you have to get just as tough as they do. I'm
yeah.
up, ma'am, get your hands down, ma'am. So she scratched my face, jumped out of the car. I went after her, and right in the middle of the street, she's crying, "He's raping me. He's raping me."
Oh,
I remember her. I'm saying, "No, no, no, I'm a cop. I'm a cop." And they didn't give us a real badge or anything for the first couple times or something like that. But we finally got the gun and badge and everything else, and I became a full-fledged detective using undercover agents and stuff like that, making several cases. One of the last cases I was in, it took me 2 years of
wow.
yeah, it was cocaine and sports bookmaking, and it had a mafia connection and everything else. So it was a lot of fun. We had wiretaps, things I'd never thought of before.
You
So
were never afraid?
I'm no,
No?
no. That's what makes a good cop sometimes.
Wow.
You just don't get scared. You run in when everybody's running away.
You wore
Firemen,
a vest?
I'm sorry.
Did you wear a vest?
Sometimes when I went on raids,
Sometimes.
yeah, I went on raids and stuff. I did, but a lot of times I was more sort of undercover in the background, on that. But we did that, and when 1996, that's 24 years later, I got approached by the sheriff of Prince George's County, Maryland, which was the county that was right by Anacostia.
PG County, yeah.
And he says, "Look, we're starting a gambling unit and everything else. And I know you've got gambling expertise. I even testified in court as an expert a couple times. And so I retired from the police department in 96, and I joined the sheriff's office. So I became a deputy sheriff. The gambling thing didn't quite come to fruition at that time. So I was a uniformed deputy sheriff in court and everything else, which to me was very exciting. When I was a police officer, I would lock people up. And then when the trial came, they put me in a little ante room until they called me as a witness. And I would testify to what my part was. And every once in a while, you come back out there and you find out that the guy was found not guilty. And I said,
Wow.
what I did was this and that. And I didn't know. When I became a deputy sheriff, I was in charge of a couple of judges. And anytime they had someone come up, I would be there standing behind the defendant. At that point, I got to hear the whole trial, and I'd hear what the detective was saying, the prosecution would say, and then the defense would come up, and I'm sitting there looking and looking, and looking, and I'm saying, "Oh my God, this guy might be found not guilty by virtue of a very good defense attorney." In different circumstances, it came up. So I got to see the other side of it and why some people who I know were guilty didn't quite make it because of that. So I got to see the whole trial, both sides of it.
Mm.
I was happy with that. I got to see everything. About 10 years on the sheriff's office, I got a tap on the shoulder by one of the colonels. He said, "Weren't you on warrant squad when you were in DC?" I said, "Yes, sir, I was." "You're going on warrant squad." So next thing I know, out of uniform again, got a cruiser, we go to this big file section at the sheriff's office. All the warrants that they had for fail to appear, murder, prostitution, burglary, anything were in there under different sections. So for the next several years, I had a partner. My partner and I would go up to the file and we pulled out 10 or so warrants that were out for different things. And we would go to the different locations and try to find them. And when we did, we arrested them and brought them back to be, fingerprinted and photographed. I had several interesting arrests on that one. Guys trying to jump out windows, guns being pointed and stuff like that. But that was very, very exciting. Well, at the sheriff's office, I'd gone through my divorce already, but at the sheriff's office, when I was in the trials that I was talking to you about, I saw this beautiful redhead who was a court reporter. She was reporting all the information down from the trial. I looked at her, she looked at me, and we said, well, I've been married to that woman now for 28 years.
Aww, how sweet.
I came down here to Florida. So I went to Florida and I still felt young, didn't feel like I was ready to retire and sit back and watch soap operas and stuff. So at that point, I said, well, I want to see what else I can do. But I actually tried different things like mortgage broker and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And find out that people weren't listening to me. And so I had several friends of mine say, look, you talk like a cop. You act like a cop. You sound like you're interrogating somebody when you're trying to ask them for money. It's not going to work. So I said, okay, I'm going to do something with that. So at that point, number one, I went to a lot of networking to learn how to talk the way I'm talking now.
Mm-hmm.
Look as intimidating, but I also went and said, I want to make a little money. So I went to a neighborhood and they had a security guard to the opening. So I worked as a security guard for a couple of weeks. And I'm up there looking at these people and saying, what do they know? Well, I had this one captain who was like 6 or 7 ranks higher than I was. And he's saying, yeah, you got to do that and got to do that. And I said, well, that doesn't really sound that good. I said, how much expertise do you have? No, he said, well, I started out like you. I was just a security guard. And after a couple, years, I became a corporal, then a sergeant, then a lieutenant, and now I'm a captain. I said, you have no experience in anything? No. I said, I can't work like this. So at that point, I went to, got my licensing and my insurance. And I started my security company and I named it Last Chance Enterprises.
Love the name. Love the name.
And it was funny because some people would call and say, hey, Mr. Chance. I said, no, Mr. So I had that, but that was good. Well, I did a lot of different things. I worked, I was in charge of a hotel one time. I did a lot of different things like 5K runs or big reunions and stuff. I was even like a bodyguard for a prince of Jordan for a while.
Wow.
He went to college and stuff. That was a lot of fun. I worked down at CNN with the Larry King show for a while. And I met so many celebrities, Bob Hope and, Anthony Hopkins and things like that. So I had a very exciting time when I was doing that. Well, now I do just neighborhoods. I go to neighborhoods and I'll say, look, you got a little crime here or something like that here. my people, for less of a price of a law enforcement officer, will rove around the neighborhood as long as they see us with lights and signs on. They will go somewhere else and commit their crimes. And it's been proved that the crime rate has gone down on several of the neighborhoods that I've worked in the past.
Excellent, excellent. How many people do you have on your staff?
Right now, I've only got about 10 people on my staff because I started out, I had a lot of neighborhoods. Well, not a lot. It was a lot for me because it was like 5 or 6 neighborhoods. Now, depending on the hours you got for the neighborhoods, I just got a new neighborhood and they want me to do just midnights.
Oh,
All right, which I've got a couple guys that'll do midnight, 10 at night till 6 in the morning. But they want to do it every night, 7 nights a week. You add all that up with how much I'm charging for them and how much I'm paying the guy, this contract's worth over $116,000. So if I get a good neighborhood like that, when I have another one also that makes a lot of money even after paying people, it works out pretty good.
good. Are you hiring?
No, not right now.
Okay.
The people I have,
Okay.
it took me a while to go. When I hire the people, I vet them myself.
Okay.
When I hire them, they already got their security guard license. They go through the 42-hour school and everything else, and they got the license. Then I vet them to make sure they're doing good. And then I ride with them for a while to see if they have any bad habits they picked up from before.
Mm.
I've gone through a whole lot. Well, right now, the ones I have, I'm very happy with. They're
Do you have any females working for you?
yes, I do. I got
Okay, good.
a lady who went through law enforcement school. She took 4 years, but because she has a problem with her iron or something like that, she couldn't get fired or hired. So she says, I want to know more about it. So I told her, I said, look, I got 44 years of law enforcement. Yes, I'm a security company, but you work for me. I'll get you some good money. You'll ride around and you'll get to see a lot of things because our people, we can tow cars, we can do all kind of stuff in the other neighborhoods. She's very happy with it. She's been with me 2 years now.
Nice.
And so I'm real happy with that.
Excellent. So back up. 65 degrees below zero? Are you
That's
kidding
what
me?
that was in 1970.
Wow. In New Hampshire?
Pease Air Force Base, New Hampshire.
I've never heard of that. That
Well, the chill factor,
cold.
you know about the chill factor, right? What it is the temperature in New Hampshire that time was like 15, 20 degrees below zero. That's
Oh, okay.
when the wind hits it, they call it the hawk. That's where the chill factor comes in.
Mm.
Wind going that bad. I mean, it was the point where, I had great big gloves on and stuff. And I said, well, how can I do anything? How can I pick up my
Really?
shoot it when I can't even, move? I thought it was kind of crazy, but we had to be out there. We were out there with the planes that were, getting ready to be shipped to Vietnam at that time.
Wow.
Make
When
sure
you were working in the gambling section, was that illegal gambling or casinos?
it was back before this lottery system came up. They got the lottery stuff.
Right.
Lottery first started back in the 70s. It was based on the 4th, 7th, and 9th race, horse races. And whoever came
Oh.
first place and show, those numbers were put together and they got it and chose which number they got with that. So at the end of the 9th race, you'd have the 3 numbers that were chosen. Well, these big gambling people, they would pay the people who are on Social Security, the older people just sitting at home, and they would answer the phone, and these people would make bets. Now, these aren't these, you know, $50,000 to $100,000 bets or something like that. They were quarter bets, dollar bets, stuff like that. So they would write all that down, and then they would call the person who was handling the money, was going to get the money from them on that. And that person would get a call from the horse racing establishment. There were no phones at any of the establishments. Anyone who did that, and that's how we caught a lot of our people, is we knew when the fourth race went off, and we knew where the telephone booths were nearby, and we see a person running out and making a call. First number's a 5, and he run back in. Well, with that, we go to the court, and we get, it wasn't a wiretap, it's what was called a pen register. And we'd have a thing on that where it was attached to that phone, and it would say that at 3:59, that's when the fourth race was done, a call was made from that booth to this number. And then such and such time was called to the same number, called to that same number. Then we get a thing on that number and find out that they're calling all the other people that are spidering down, who was making the bets. Well, we do background checks, find out that a lot of them had criminal backgrounds for gambling. And so then we go on a raid, and some of the raids we go on, there's like 20 people involved. We get some police officers would go knock on the door. Hi, Ida May. She's like 80 years old. Yes. We're the police. We'd like to come in. Okay. And they come in and search, and we'd have the paperwork that they had and the money that they had or something like that. So we'd have to arrest them for a minor charge, knowing that the big guy that's in charge of the gambling, he would pay their bond and everything. And then we'd negotiate up to charge this guy, the second guy up with, gambling, and let these older people go. But it happened all the time. I had one lady who, it's not really funny, but it was, I went in, I saw her, and I said, hey, we're here for this. Yes, I know, I got this and that. So I found the paperwork, and I found, first of all, found a little bit of money, and my partner was looking around for other stuff. So I called my lieutenant, and I said, hey, Lou, this lady looks like she's got a bad heart. She's having trouble breathing. He says, okay, we're just going to subpoena her, and have a setup so she can come down at a later date. I says, okay. And then at that point, my partner says, hey, look over here. She had over $1,000 in cash and more paperwork.
Wow.
So I said, okay, I got to get you out of here. So I called for a transport. Well, it took me 15 minutes to get from her front door to the street, because she'd sit there and say, just wait a minute, give me I got to catch my breath. So we got her in the car, and it took another 15 minutes to get her, because it was a small elevator. It was headquarters. And I got her up in the 5th floor. That's where we were at, in the 5th floor. And I sat her down, or I brought her in, and she says, hey, Mabel. She knew half the people that were there, because they were old retired people too. So she got to talk to them. And I said, okay, are you doing okay now? She says, yeah, but I'm a little thirsty. Not a problem. Let me get you something. I go out to get something, down the hallway, and I come back, and there are 2 people that are holding her by her arms, leaning sort of out the window because she couldn't breathe. I said, call 911. 911 says, look, I think she's having a heart attack.
Oh.
So we go, and the people, the ambulance came and went up, but I told you it's a small elevator. They couldn't lay her down. So they actually had her in a chair. We're pushing her chest.
Oh
The-
my goodness.
So while she was there, hold on. Okay. I have to send that to voicemail. But while she was there and they were doing that, her head was hitting in the back of the elevator. She goes down there in the ambulance, and within 10 minutes, she's passed away.
Oh boy.
So this is crazy. Well, Washington, D.C. had one of the finest homicide squads in the nation. And they were called the Hat Squad. They were always wearing nice hats and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody just pushed aside and let them do what they want. Well, the next day, I'm up in my gambling squad, and Hat Squad comes in. Where's Detective Last? It's right here. We want to investigate how you killed this lady. Whoa,
Oh no.
wait a minute. So they grilled me for about a half hour or so until, I finally said, look, it was the paramedics. And
Wow.
so they realized that. But I mean, I got the scary thing that they thought that I had killed this lady.
Did the family try to sue
No,
the
well,
police department?
I tried to sue the police department, but they wouldn't get to me. I'm just a low man on the totem pole at that point. But that was one of the several neat incidents I had.
Wow. Dennis, when are you going to retire?
Well, that's what I'm in the middle of that.
In the
I'm
middle of retiring. How old are you?
76.
Okay.
What it
It's
is,
time.
my wife and I talked about it, and I want to. In fact, I got one of my managers, who's my next door neighbor. I've had working for me for over 8 years, and I said, "Look, I can sell the company to you. I can't sell it for what my attorneys say it's worth because it's too much money. They're talking about 150, 200,000. My
Mm-hmm.
my guys can't do that. So I said, I'm going to give you a nice deal, and I'm going to give you 5 years to pay it. So for 5 years, you're going to give me a salary, and I'm just going to be there. And if you need help a little bit, I'll tell you what's going on. You can do it. In the fifth year, I'll sign everything over. I was all set to do that up until yesterday. I got a call from this Lutheran Haven up off of Aloma,
Uh-huh.
a retirement community that's on a religious thing. And the guy is the one that told me, hey, I need somebody to work every night, 7 nights a week at my neighborhood. And they want you to do it.
Wow.
So here I am saying, okay, I got this, I got a couple of this and that. Now I got this thing that, like I told you, the way it adds up, it's going to be $115,000, $120,000 a year over and above what I'm making with the little things. But now I got to think, what do I do now to retire? And should I go to a different price? Can my buddy help it? Or do I have to just sell to another company? I do want to get out of here by the end of the year, or not this year, but end of next year.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing, because I'm tired of getting, like I said, I got a call while I'm talking to you. It's probably, hey, are you Last Chance? We got a thing here at this neighborhood, da da da.
Wow.
That's what I can sort of handle it, but it gets to be a pain in the neck because I'd like to go on a cruise one time, or like I said, I went up to Pennsylvania for a while, but I still got 3 calls when I was up in Pennsylvania last week. So I want to get that out altogether so I can just be a retired person and go down and eat $5 meals.
Yes. Enjoy your years with your wife.
I
But I
am.
have listen, Dennis, I have a few ideas that I want to share with you offline about your business.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, you
So
mean
you've had, I'm sorry,
you're going to share this afterwards? Or you're going to share it now?
afterwards,
Okay.
privately.
fine. That's fine. But
So you've had quite a journey. And
yes.
you're very active in Florida. You're in the Kiwanis,
Oh
you're
yeah.
in the Sunset Club, you're in the Sunshine Club,
I
you're
do.
quite
meal-
busy.
I do Meals on Wheels. I read to the children, and I also have my crock pot class that I'm doing.
That
Teach-
is super cool.
So
Talk
yes.
about that. I love that.
Well, what it is we started. I started looking at things, and I'm saying I'm doing some crock pot meals, and then I talk to somebody, and they say, "Oh yeah, I got a crock pot. It's just sitting on the counter." Well, how many times you use it? Well, I think I might have used it a month ago. I said, "Do you know how much money, number one, you can save by not buying a thing, and number two, all the nutritional value you can get?" I've showed them recipes where the calories and everything went down.
I
You know,
love your
sugar.
recipe book. The one
Yeah,
that you wanted me to raffle off. I
yes.
ended up keeping it.
So you raffle it off to yourself. I think that's very enlightening. But like I said, we have that, and then little things like that. So I go through the class,
Uh-huh.
and I tell them about it. I've got it up on my on the screen, different things, and it takes about 40 minutes for the class to do. And then at the end of the class, like I say, I do a lottery. And somebody in the class wins a brand new crock pot.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome.
fun. So I like doing that now, and now I'm doing it now on the retired, or not the retired, but it's called dedicated senior medical centers, where a
Oh,
lot,
I know them.
yeah, where a lot of the seniors are on it, and so they got little classes like golden sneakers or silver sneakers.
Silver sneakers. Yeah.
Sneakers. Well, I
You,
also am trying to do a class once a month, crockpot class to keep
nice.
it too.
You should come do one for me at the YMCA downtown.
You just
We'll
let me
talk
know.
about it.
You let me
Yeah.
know talk about after this.
After this, yes, after this. So Dennis, after throughout all you've been, well, in regards to the police work you did in Maryland, are you on top of what's going on in DC as far as policing and the National Guard?
I am very upset with that. Number one, National Guard, they're trained to be soldiers
Right.
to go over. How are they going to assist someone like me? Well, I mean, I went through 8 weeks of academy to learn how to police, to learn how
Hmm.
to interrogate, to learn about everything else. So they're going to put someone right beside me, and he's going to, do this and that. And we know when to draw our guns. We know when to push people. We know when to put hands on people as opposed, it's got to escalate up. These people don't know how to do that. They
Hmm.
got to get the hell out of the way. Where were they on January 6th when a lot of our guys got beat up and everything? And something
Yeah.
that's where we needed them is to do that
Eh,
to protect, the congressman and everybody else that was in there. Well, even the vice president was in there, you know.
yeah, I heard that one of the insurrectionists that died uh may be getting the Medal of Honor.
I know it. I heard that. That was the lady that they have films of her. Now she was in the Air Force or something like that. And she was trying to climb through the window and everything else. Well, they
Right.
ended up shooting her and killing her.
Hmm.
But she was committing a crime, breaking into the thing. Well, the president now says he's going to give her military honors, and she's going to be buried with a 21 gun salute to that. I says she didn't die in the line of duty. You know,
No.
there's so many things, and I won't get into politics.
Right.
You know, but it's just you're right with National Guard in D.C. Let our people who are trained with
Yeah.
32,000 or something like that, or 3,200. We know what we're doing. I've got people in there that I know will back me up. And they know even at my age, I'm not backing down on that. We're the people that can do this,
Right.
and that's what that is.
Dennis, what kind of words of wisdom would you give someone thinking about going to law enforcement?
I thought about that several times about that. My big thing on that, like I said, I don't have anyone in my family, any of my kids that ever went into law enforcement. And I'm up there saying, I thought I was a good cop. I didn't get killed. I have stories I wouldn't believe it. But I did find out that it takes a special mind to be a cop. There's people I've seen on the police department and I'm saying, oh my God, why are you a cop? You don't have the reasoning or, the second theory on what's going on, and you're gullible and everything else. You've got to have all that with you.
Yes, critical thinking. Absolutely.
You're not going to learn it in the academy. Like I said, I got out of the academy, and the one guy I had working who had like 8 years on in Anacostia said, last, whatever you learn in the academy, forget it. You do what I tell you to do, and you do good. You got it. So when he said do this or do that or something like that, I did it, and I felt very confident. And then when I had about 8 years on, I was saying the same thing to someone else came up. I said, look, you don't need to know this rule and that rule and that rule. You need to know what's going on in the academy, or not in the academy, but in the streets of DC.
I wonder how
That's what I would tell.
the how they're teaching the students in today's academy as opposed to when you went through.
There's a lot more rules. Like I say, they now have the cameras on, and they have to say so many things. I'm reading in the paper different thing about this officer was arrested, or not arrested but fired because he didn't do that and that. And I said, what did he do wrong? Now I've seen a couple times where they do something wrong, like it takes 6 people to lock someone up. It doesn't take 6.
Mhm.
You get them on the floor, 1 or 2 will get them. Yeah, you don't need that. Well, these teach them. Oh, we need everybody to get them down, everything else. You don't. You know, safety and stuff. So, like I said, that's and now all the stuff you have to carry.
Yeah.
It's like 50 pounds of stuff. It's like you were in the army with a big rucksack. Oh, we're going to run 3 miles with a rucksack. 50. Well, they have it on their belt now. They're getting in the car, getting out of the car, and they got to chase somebody. Then they got to wrestle. And then while they're wrestling, and that's another thing, I didn't like having a whole bunch of stuff. I got my gun over here. I got a nightstick over here somewhere. And then he's looking down and says, oh, there's mace. And he's grabbing for my mace or grabbing for all this other stuff I got on it. I got 2 hands. And one of them, the other one's protecting my weapon. And I've seen so much of that where, they're taking this from them, taking that from them.
Dennis, did you ever witness any policemen abusing the criminals, like abuse, aggressive abuse, unnecessary abuse?
Yes, and I went to my supervisor and I said, look, he didn't need to do that on a warrant. He didn't need to do that. Well, I mean, there are going to be crooked cops. There were cops that, locked up drug dealers and said, oh, money, they put it in their pockets. I mean, if I don't catch them, I don't catch them. If I catch them, they're definitely gone. In the sheriff's office, same thing. I had a couple of them that were up there, and I went to my lieutenant and I said, look, he doesn't need to be a deputy sheriff. Or if you put him in deputy sheriff, put him back in the courtroom. Have him out there with me.
You've had quite a journey, Mr. Last. What kind of closing, do you have any closing remarks, any kind of words of wisdom you want to share before we say goodbye?
The only words of wisdom is I've heard of the couple other people that you've got coming up. And I know they got a lot of journey that I'll be listening to too. And I'm hoping I can share this journey and send it out to some people that I know, some retired
Good.
enforcement, a couple of people I know that want to become law enforcement, like the young lady that, that works for me. She can't become law enforcement, but she'll get to hear some of the stories and stuff.
Yeah, the stories are real life experiences
Yeah.
that we can learn from.
When my father was like 80 some years old, my son at 5 years old said, Grandpa, as old as you are, do you have any memories? And my dad looked at him and says, Well, son, I don't have any memories, but I sure have a hell of a lot of stories. Well, now,
Yeah, I'm impressed that you remember dates and years.
well, like I said, it was important to me. Working all that was very important to me. And I can proudly say that I was part of it, you know,
Yes.
part of it. Well, thank you so much for giving me the time to talk.
No, thank you, Dennis Last. I really enjoy it. I always enjoy speaking with you on and off the camera.
And that's one of the things that I learned on my networking was, a lot of people say, Hey, do you take your work home with you? Do you get depressed? Like I said, we have a lot of cops, had a lot of cops that would end up drinking and becoming alcoholics, you know, to do it, something like that. Other ones would go home and get real depressed, and their marriages would go bad and stuff like that because they just couldn't get it out of their system on things.
Mm.
I'm using humor. The more humor I got, the less, less I feel like some of the action that was happening there. Yes, I've gone through it, but right now it can be a story.
That is so healthy, Dennis. That is so healthy. And guess what? It works. It really works.
I feel it does work for me. You know,
Yes.
point now that, I tell someone I was in law enforcement before, you couldn't have been. You don't have the attitude. Well, I'm glad I got rid of it because I had it when I first got out of the department. Because like I say, everybody was saying, why are you talking to this person this way? It's like it's guilty of something. Now I'm just trying to get some money off him. You need to learn how to talk to people. And I think I've done it.
Good. Good for you. Well, God bless you, Dennis. Thank you again for sharing this time with me. I've learned so much about your yesterdays and looking forward to your tomorrows.
Well,
I've been your host. My name is Alicia Figueras-Lambert here at Graceful Profiles. Please like us, share us, subscribe to us right here on the bottom. If you want to contact me to be a guest on this show, please give me a call back. My number is 631-741-5616. Always put God first and you'll never come in second. God bless.
amen.